It's been a noteworthy week in Batman. Obviously, I did the big video talking about the page from Batman the Fortress that I say is one of the worst pages in Batman comic history, but we also got the Shadows of the Bat event almost finishing up. We got a new Detective Comics as well as Batman Beyond the White Knight. Here to talk with me about all this is my good friend Josh McDonald. How you doing, Josh?
I'm doing well. Quick correction, Shadow War.
Whatever, man. Why'd they name them so close to each other? So we are going to talk about Batman the Fortress after we talk about the other Batman comics. I haven't discussed this week. I already did a whole video on that one. So let's talk about Shadow War. We got 2 issues in this. There was a Deathstroke Incorporated issue that was kind of filler. Nothing actually happens there. So we're going to skip right on by that one, just like readers should have. We're going to arrive at Robin number 14, Josh Williamson, Roger Cruz. Now, this whole event has been set up about who is the fake Deathstroke, who actually killed Ra's al Ghul, who's trying to get Deathstroke and his army fighting Talia al Ghul and her army. And we get the big reveal. I guess we should talk about it now. Geoforce? Get the fuck out of here.
I mean, look, as someone who absolutely loves the original run of Batman and the Outsiders, I am a fan of Geoforce. But this does not make me a fan of Geoforce. And I feel like they showed their hand. Like, Williamson was pretty heavy-handed with his hints. Even from the first issue, I was kind of like, is Geoforce involved with this? Because they mentioned Markovia. You had the earthquake. I'm just like, hopefully not, because I didn't want him to be a villain like this. But apparently, hey, Geoforce. So DC, like they're going for it again.
Feels like they swung and missed on this one. It was just...
Oh, yeah, no, it was definitely a miss. Definitely a miss.
The other big thing that happens in this issue, which is, I believe, the second to last issue of Shadow War, we get the big Talia al Ghul Deathstroke fight, and they're battling at it, and Batman and Damien are trying to intervene before something bad happens, and something bad happens. Talia al Ghul murders Deathstroke.
Yeah, she, it was an interesting fight, and Deathstroke got a little cocky and was too busy doing his villain speech, and she, just is quick and stabs him in the torso with...
She grabbed his blade first, so she took a little punishment to dish out a little punishment.
Yeah, she took that gambit. I will say, when I saw that, I was like, I feel like Deathstroke's swords are sharp enough and he's strong enough that it would have just chopped her hand off, but I'll run with it. And then she just stabs him. And then not only does she stab him, but she slices. Like, she makes sure it's not a stab and pull out. She's going to do some damage. So she slices. And, hey, we've got another two issues in a row. So we talked about Deathstroke Inc. didn't do anything. The only thing it did was confirm Respawn's dead. And then now we killed Deathstroke. So, yay.
Here's the problem, Josh. We know that we've got Dark Crisis coming up. There's an enormous fight between Dick Grayson and Deathstroke in the second issue. They're promoting the entire issue on that fight. So I know, and you know, and anyone that reads DC Comics and is aware of what their plans within the next 2 or 3 months know, that this is bullshit and he's not really dead.
Yes, exactly. We were behind the scenes kind of talking, and we mentioned the 2 big reveals, and I was like, the 2 big reveals, and you're like, yeah, Geoforce, and they killed Deathstroke. I was like, but did they kill Deathstroke? And you're like, yeah, we're gonna talk about that. That says it all. It's one of these things that it's just like, am I enjoying the Shadow War story? Not really. It's fine. It's not terrible. It's fine. It's got moments that are good, moments that are just okay at best. But it would read better and play better if DC wouldn't continue to reveal their hands. I get you want to push Dark Crisis, and they're probably trying extra hard because there wasn't a lot of positive feedback about Dark Crisis. But this could have been a moment that could have played relatively well had we not already known Deathstroke's going to be prominent in Dark Crisis.
Yeah, it's just bad planning, and everyone sees right through it, and death means nothing in comic books anymore.
No.
Within the next few months, we will see Ra's al Ghul return. We will see Deathstroke return.
Yep.
Hell, we even saw Talia al Ghul in this next comic we're going to talk about, Detective Comics 1060. She just comes out of fucking nowhere. This is Mariko Tamaki, Ivan Reis. Now, you kind of like this comic book. Well, I won't put words in your mouth. You like this comic book way more than I like this comic book. I think there's nothing redeeming about it other than the art by Ivan Reis, which is absolutely fantastic. If you like Batman sitting down at a table, eating with another person, somewhat interrogating them, for 8 pages, but getting nowhere with no sexual chemistry whatsoever with the woman he's talking to, this is the comic book for you.
I mean, the woman he is with was a judge. Do they ever really have any sexual chemistry? Like, probably not.
Judging Amy says different.
If you're a judge and you're watching this, I apologize. It was a joke. Let me explain what I like about this. I like the idea that it is a street level comic because that's where I prefer Batman to be. I like that they're dealing with murders, and I like that there's a bit of a mystery. Now, I know you feel like a lot of this came out of nowhere, right? Mm-hmm. Talia al Ghul, I'll agree, that came out of nowhere. But the other elements, the citizens of this, I like this idea, and it kind of throws back to the old school, not Jason Todd Red Hood, but like Red Hood as in when Joker was Red Hood, a story of him using people and blackmailing them to get them to do his crimes for him. So for me, like that, I like this element that's going on here. I like that people are getting blackmailed. There are things that I don't like, namely the Riddler. But other than that, I'm enjoying the setup here. So I'm on board, but how they finish this is going to be critical.
It's so random and stupid, and you can tell from my perspective that Mariko Tamaki is waving the white flag and said, you know what, I just don't care about this comic book anymore, but I'm contracted for 2 or 3 more issues, so I guess I had to write something.
I'm okay with the aspect of not knowing what's going on because we've seen him try to piece elements together. We're seeing him look at all these people that are suspects or, getting these letters. They're all discovering different things.
Are you sure Deb Donovan's not in on it? Because it sounded like she was to me.
It does kind of sound like she's in on it. But that's part of what I'm liking about this. I don't know where it's going. So I like the fact that I don't know where it's going. Now, the upcoming issues could be absolute shit. And I could come back and say, this is terrible. Don't waste your time. But for me, I'm okay with I actually want to see what happens next. And I can't really say that about a lot of these other books.
I'm planting my flag that this comic book is absolute dog shit, and I'm not moving it because I know where this thing is going, and it's going nowhere. Everything is happening randomly, especially that final reveal where the judge ends up like murdering somebody right in front of him. It was like, this is just so stupid and out of nowhere.
Well, I'm curious I'm not saying that it's going to be a good resolve, but I'm curious to see what the resolve is and what the motivations are.
I don't recommend Detective Comics 1060 at all. I think it's absolute trash. I think the Robin comic book is better. I think Batman the Fortress is on par with it.
I would say it's worthy of being picked up. I think it's better than Robin, but there's so many other things in Robin that I did not like. I don't like Ghostmaker, so I don't like that plot line. I don't like the whole like you claim that you're the better Batman, but really you just want me to be your Catwoman. Like that shit. That's like I'm so over that type of writing. Like just throw it away.
Angel Breaker's so played out, and she hasn't even started. It's not even funny. Get rid of the character.
Yes. So for me, I would say Detective. You know what we need if you've read both of these, or if you've read Detective Comics at all, go into the comments and let us know who you side with. Are you more on Wes's side of this is terrible, or were you more on my side where it's it's all right? Let's see how this goes.
My viewers have good taste in comic books. I know exactly where they're going. Detective Comics was an abomination this week. Now let's go over to Batman Beyond the White Knight #3. This is a comic book that I was looking forward to. I had some issues with Batman Curse of the White Knight. I didn't like some of the weird shipping aspects with Bruce and Harley Quinn. And Sean Gordon Murphy has essentially doubled down on that. We know that Bruce Wayne and Harley Quinn are married, but apparently you're going to give me some information on it. They're not sexual or whatever. But once I saw that they were married, I noped out. I'm not reading this comic book anymore. This is Sean Gordon Murphy writing and illustrating. What did you think about this one? Are you recommending it?
Yeah, I'll recommend it. I'm with you. I don't like the idea of Batman and Harley Quinn being married. This issue goes into some details, kind of revealing that it's not romantic. There is an understood note that they care for each other, but they were not in love. And the reasons they got married it was more so for Bruce to try to protect Harley in a legal stance to a certain extent. It's fine. I'm still not crazy about it, but I'm more okay with it because I just have this issue of Bruce falling in love with someone that's murdered a lot of people. And I don't think that would realistically ever happen. I think Catwoman is the line because, if we keep Catwoman to what she's supposed to be, she's just a thief, which is still not a good thing, but it's not murdering somebody. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying it. I feel like the book is picking up momentum. We finally get our first confrontation between Batman and Batman Beyond. So we get to see Terry and Bruce kind of confront each other for the first time. And you're seeing different factions form in Gotham. And it's kind of been leading up and setting up to this for a while now. But I really want to see where Sean Gordon Murphy takes this. Am I loving it? No. I still think the first Batman White Knight is the best, but I do enjoy this better than Curse of the White Knight.
The shipping stuff throws me off. I'm just not all that interested in it, but the art is absolutely spectacular. Really enjoyed Batman the White Knight. Just this isn't my cup of tea. It's gone off in a direction that just it's so far afield for anything that I'm actually interested in that I've had to take I've had to bow out on the series, and that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
Now let's talk about Batman the Fortress. I called this page where Batman especially says, you know what, I'm not here to protect the city. I'm not here to protect people's bottom lines. Those people have insurance. This isn't what I'm all about. I'm not here. I'm not going to save anybody during this riot. What did you think about this page? Is it the worst of all time?
I complain about writers missing the mark, but writers he really missed the mark here. And that page in particular, I think it's the very top panel is fine because he talks about he just got news that Arkham completely lost security. It shut down. Everyone's loose. And he talks about needing to prioritize those villains over looters. And had he just stopped there, I would have understood. But he doesn't. And he goes on this huge rant about the American dream and they're not worth his time. And that's not what he's here for. And I'm like, no, that is you're a street level hero. This is what you're here for. And even if you don't necessarily, quote unquote, have time, the Batman that I know and understand would have just dropped down in the street and made his presence known. And all those people would have fled like freaking cockroaches. And
it just kind of goes directly in contradiction to Batman's history and even his origin. From the characterization of what Batman says in that panel, you could say that Joe Chill was just trying to get a carrot, trying to get an upper hand. He was having a bad day, and it's not my job to stop somebody from trying to grab a carrot when they have an opportunity.
It reminded me of some of the issues that I've had with Captain America lately and how they write Captain America. Our heroes are losing all sense of their heroism. We don't have heroic journeys anymore. I don't, believe that our heroes are standing up for the fundamental moralities that they should be standing up for. And they're just yeah, no, it's fine. We've got this mentality now that yeah, you know what? These people have had a bad life. So if they go and break into buildings and burn stuff down and cause all this property damage, it's fine because they've had a bad life and they're owed something. Saying it's okay to do damage is not the answer. You shouldn't be burning shit down. And then saying oh, these companies have insurance, it's fine. Anyone writing this does not understand companies or finances because yes, they have insurance, but guess what also happens? Once stuff like this happens, your insurance payments, they spike. So when they
also
spike,
have deductibles.
Well, yeah. But, as a company, you're going to have to start paying more. So sorry, we're going political, but this book went there. So guess what that company has to do? They have to come up with where they're going to make up that money because they now have a place where they're not getting income from. And then their costs are increasing across the board. So guess what gets cut? Hours, payroll. So the people that you're oh, no, they're fine. You're hurting them even worse. It's not rocket science. It's a bad book with some decent moments.
I missed the decent moments. There were some things that weren't as bad, but I know you mentioned there was a couple of moments that you specifically liked.
With Jim Gordon, and this pulls from other books, but there was the moment where one of them says thank you, and the other's I told you you'd never have to thank me. I love that. It's happened before, but I love that relationship between them. Tagged onto that was the idea of the friendship. And Jim Gordon says, friends, is that what we are? And Batman says, as much friends as we can be with one of us wearing a mask. And I liked it because it was him acknowledging that I'm not being completely transparent and honest with you for very honest reasons. We understand why. But at the same time, it's acknowledging, I want you to understand that even though I'm not revealing who I am, I trust you and you can trust me. There are little pockets of dialogue throughout this book that hit like that, and I appreciate it. Other than that, it's not a good book. Penguin's characterization is terrible. You have what we talked about with the looting. It's terrible. The whole kind of
Batman and Alfred.
I hated the whole Bruce with Alfred saying, I got you something. And it's I survived the blackout. I was
not a great moment for Batman comics. Although not as bad as the page where he was supporting rioters and looters destroying the city. Not the greatest week in Batman history. In fact, I would say this has pretty much been across the board a big disappointment. That Deathstroke issue, which we didn't get into details, completely skippable. A couple of moments in Robin happened. I don't know if they were good. Geoforce seemed like a big letdown to me. I did not like Detective Comics 1060, but Josh is recommending that one highly. He said it's the best comic book of the week.
Well, okay, time out. I didn't like anything else. I hated pretty much everything else. So let's not say it's highly recommended. I just said I thought it was the best of the lot.
That's kind of the highest recommendation if you think about it.
I would recommend other books first.
As I mentioned earlier, I did talk about Batman the Fortress a couple of days ago here on the channel, talking about what I consider to be one of the worst pages in Batman comic history. If you haven't seen it, if you haven't seen the details, definitely check this video out. See what I'm talking about, because it gets no worse than this. Gary Whitta is a complete hack.